Helo, agus fáilte go trí seascad den program ag BBC Alba a bhí sa taispeanach na boranich ingantach agus sa scéalchan cuachtach an is sùil spórs na Alba. Is me Iona Ballantyne agus is son na chéad dúr ha mí toilite fáilte chuúr Àrd-Choidse St Mirren, Kate Cooper gan stiùidio. Program na heiche noch, chluin sin bhfuil Kate mar a head dul gan scipa éiche an t-seachdain-sa, gheibh sin tuilleadh a-mach mé farpais sgoile Bob Docherty a chaidh chumail an a Glaschu bhachan ghoirid, agus bheir sin sùil na crímicin a seair gan na geamaichean ag Alba in Australia agus Costa Rica. Kate, welcome to 360.
Hello, nice to see you.
Well, it's great to have you on the programme and for the first time. So because we obviously just have you on for the first time, let's go back to the start for you and your journey in sport and where it all began.
So I actually started playing football when I was 13. So it's a long time ago now. It feels as many, sometimes I can't remember some of the stuff, but it was actually a local team to me, had been set up, and I went along at 13, 14. And at that time, you can show how far back I'm going. There was no age groups in those days, and we used to play and train on ash pitches. So for me to see where the sport's come to today is probably is huge, and what opportunities girls have now. But yeah, played in a women's team for a good 10, 15 years, different leagues. It was smaller then, and then it's grown. The game's just grown so rapidly. So yeah, and then quite early on, so it was quite interesting for me because probably for my players as a head coach, I'm probably one of the few female coaches they've had or ever had. I might be the first one they've had, but for me, my coaches were always female, and I think that was just because that's where the game was then. A lot of players, so we're really encouraged to get into coaching quite early. So I was 18 or 19 when I started doing coaching courses.
Is that what inspired you to get into coaching, having those female coaches as sort of role models almost?
Yeah, I think they were they really kind of drove us to say, actually, it's our sport. So, and now I'm really showing my age because when I started playing, I think the women's game had only been back out of having the ban 10 years. So it was really relatively young again, although things had still continued to some degree. But to actually have that organisation and that kind of, and everything was all volunteer based. So they really wanted to encourage us as players to really take ownership of the sport as well, because it was the only way it was going to drive. If we were going to grow it and develop it, then it could only come from the people who were in the sport, because the reality is not many people were interested outside the sport of us. So I was really fortunate. I had some amazing female coaches, but actually amazing inspirational women. Actually, a lot of them were very, they had professional jobs, and they really kind of wanted us to be the best we could. So I probably had that was probably quite inspirational for me, growing up amongst women who really drove a sport, drove their own lives as such, and probably did a lot of breaking of barriers, and that probably was instilled in me really young, so I've kind of just done that with the sport myself.
And now you're head coach of St Mirren. The team have kind of developed and grown so much recently, especially with you as head coach. How did you get involved with them in the first place, and tell us where they are now, because it's been quite a significant growth.
I think when I had been in football for a wee while, I've done different things in the game. I've been involved in running the game. I've coached at different levels within the game as well. And then I took a small break out of the game. I just wanted to be a bit time out, and then players I'd coached before came back and said, would you get involved again? But when I went along to St Mirren, and I had kind of said to them, if you're wanting us to really do the women and girls programmes, then you have to give us at least 10 years. So I kind of set myself up for a 10-year gig.
like that.
But I think it was important to be really honest with them, that if they wanted quick results wouldn't make anything sustainable. So we had to create that much longer lasting legacy. And I think for a club like St Mirren, which is such a family club, I mean, I don't think when I go there, it's just the feeling of the club is just so amazing in terms of, how much we do things, and it's about being part of a family. It's about being part of a football family. So I said about 10 years, so I'm kind of 5 years into that. I've kind of tried to sell them that I'm only actually really 2 after the pandemic. And
exactly, good point.
Because we were mothballed for quite a wee while. So I think it's really working with players and groups of people where we can actually, what's the culture we really want to build with them has been probably the thing I've focused on first. We want that culture of development and giving girls and women in our area the opportunity to come and be the best they possibly can be and to go on their own sporting journey, their own football journey. And it's like making those small marginal gains every year. So I think sometimes slow is much faster. Sometimes you go fast, you actually end up a bit slow in what you do because you do things too quickly, whereas I've always kind of went with what I feel is my gut instinct, and probably actually just being a bit older now as well, I think sometimes, as I say, sometimes age is wasted on the young, whereas now I don't really focus on what's happening out with the team. I'm really, in terms of what we want to deliver at St Mirren, is really focusing on what we're doing, how we're managing players, what we're giving them, what we're instilling in them, what can we give them that gives us an edge over the competition round about us. But also creating that culture where we want a healthy competitive culture within the club. So one of the things we really do with the women, and I think that is in women's sport and having coming through that, is sometimes we are low in confidence, sometimes we don't get heard a lot. I think culturally and societally then we're such busy people all the time, and football sometimes, even though it's a real passion for you, sometimes comes at the bottom of the pile between a job, family, children, who you've got to care for, what you've got to do, what your responsibilities are, just because of the place that women have in society. So we kind of have really looked at saying how can we help players be really productive with their time, because I see them 3 times a week, 2 sessions a week and on a Sunday, but we actually have a 6-day programme for them over the week, including recovery. We have a sports scientist for them, we do daily diaries with them, but all these small things to kind of cushion round them to actually give them a holistic approach to who they are. So seeing them as an individual first, a player second, because actually if they're happy being with us, they'll play better, they'll be more open to trying things if we want to challenge them in some of the play and what we want them to do. Then they have to be comfortable with us. So we've got them, chaplain Ruth does an excellent job with them there as well. So and we even got our own panda, so we have our own mascot who's Amanda Panda, who's our own Facebook page if anybody wants to follow her. But these small things I felt was really good for us to be able to bring in to create that bit of real football has to be fun. We need to enjoy what we're doing. Do we want to operate and play at a really high level? Absolutely, but you've got to love it. You've got to be turning up and be in love with the process of becoming a footballer, process of becoming a coach. It's particularly since we live in Scotland and the weather's usually not get many sunny days. So, and also as well as for most of us still in the women's game, unfortunately, is we don't have many paid roles. So we do this because we love it and because we want to develop it and we want to take it to the next stage. So, so we've really worked at St Mirren of creating that culture where they can learn and develop, and building relationships and being collaborative about what we do. And yeah, we can be competitive with teams on the pitch, but actually we need to be working together off the pitch, and in our communities off the pitch. So it's really about how we can continue to develop that. We have our own leadership programme within the club as well for the women. So we've actually, this year has been the first year we've really saw that come into fruition. We've got 3 of the players now down coaching the under-16s, but we also get them, the players at the different age groups. We've got we started with 6 players, we've got 130 now.
That's incredible. Across
all of the age groups, also from under 8s all the way up. So I wish I could go and see them all. I just sometimes don't get enough time for all of that. But it's amazing. It's just amazing seeing how enthusiastic the kids are at wanting to play and the opportunities they had, and but also for our players now to be given that opportunity to keep going down, because I think that's something I'm probably quite passionate about, is I want more women in the game. I want them to have more opportunities, but not as coaches, but this is who I think it's incumbent upon us to create the next, the next media people, the next social media, the next, journalists, all of these people that will report on the game, the next administrators, the next Amanda Panda, the next chaplains, because if we don't do that and we don't empower them to do that, then we're giving the development of the sport away to other people. So I think it's been great to watch our captain Karen McCabe, Ciara McIntyre and Kelly Ross are down coaching the under-16s, and that's been good leadership for them, because I think when you're turning up and you're coming along and everything's kind of done and organised, and to suddenly we need to be responsible for people, and I think it gives a lot of soft leadership skills, which is really important in the game. I think that's maybe sometimes, because I'm obviously one of the few kind of head coaches within the country, if not within our leagues, and I think sometimes for us it's I still want to be my own person as a head coach. I don't want to have to be because we've obviously predominantly male within the sport, so it's about having that confidence to say, this is me, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it.
That's amazing. And the thing is, it sounds like you're so much more than a head coach, because there's so much going on and so much that you've developed in this time, and like you say, your 10-year plan, but you're only kind of halfway through it, and there's so much that's happened. Honestly, Kate, it's fantastic to hear. We've got a wee feature to watch now, but we'll come straight back to this and hear everything that's going on.
Thanks.
Wel gach bliana, bí na cluicheadar an ága seair san riach éineachte a cluich an farpais sgole Bob Docherty. An bliana, van arpais a cumail an Glaschu, agus va Alba gamas an dúis a bhuanig son a chéad úr fo 2,000 Cuideachd. Hil sinne an arpais gus barach ein a-mach me Jane.
Yn generwyd yn a siar yn ni cleichyd ar bal cosio, sian dwychach ar ochgachach, agus a hwla bliana fyrdi cwch yn a cleichyd ar yn oga a siar sy'n riach yn eich sy'n iano.
We're here at the Bob Docherty tournament, which has been running for 23 years. So it's a home international tournament between Scotland, England, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So this is our turn. It rotates every year as a different country, so this is our year to host it.
It's a great way for the girls to get a Scotland cap, and it just brings them up to that next level. So the games are of a very high standard.
The standard of play has just gone through the roof now that the girls' game's growing and growing, and clubs are taking on, you know, a more positive aspect of the girls' game. So our selection process is that any girl that is in a secondary school in Scotland and who's under 15 is eligible to trial, and we have 6 regional teams, and from that we play an inter-region tournament, and from there we select 36 girls to come to the final trial, and from that 36 we whittle it down to 18.
It's a really tough process. I personally run the North squad, so my area is from Angus right up as far as you can go. So we had something like 140 girls trial, and we had to do 2 trials, whittle it down, and then you're only taking 18 into the actual regional competition. So we have girls that were in the squad from Ross County area, Dingwall, Inverness, right through Aberdeenshire, Morayshire, the city, Aberdeen City. And that's a great experience, but as you can imagine, you're building a squad from girls that don't regularly play together, and you have to come together very quickly to compete against the other regions.
Son mór an achge, sé seo hiad blasad an na campa internationte, agus an jaulas tyfa mwy yn rhywun cliche, cers go cwtrymach ni na ha tachart eith na parke.
It's been great, obviously it's a great bunch of girls, but we've just gelled so well. As soon as we stepped through the doors at the hotel, we're all so familiar with each other, and it's been really, really good.
Yeah, it's really exciting. A bit nervous obviously, but it's a really exciting experience. It's quite new to me, but I feel like I've fit in well, so I'm really excited about it.
I love it here, and when I found out I got selected back in the squad this year, I was so delighted. I had the best time last year, and it's the exact same this year.
The girls, we've known each other for a while through the trial process and everything, so when it's finally the final 18, we get really close because we're all going for it together, it's the same experience.
Sé amas cumann bal cosio sgolche na Alba, ewlas international kerst a horten na chláinéan, is on sealag a hortagaig tegud a go bhín reichbe sa nám di teach.
Yeah, it's really important because the girls are with us then and with each other and all through the day, so we're doing different activities, we're not just training on the pitch, you know, they're learning so many different life skills and aspects about being a professional footballer, how to eat right, sleep right, drink right, how to train, you know, all of those kind of things that are fundamental skills for moving up to the next level.
It also just brings them lifelong friendships. You know, this is memories that we're making, and these girls, you know, hold on to these memories right into their adulthood and beyond. And a lot of them are very good at coming back and representing their schools and their areas and helping the next generation of girls come up and move forward.
Hanna clichad ar nach a clichta Alba ulag dochasach agus a gasling idriachs and spars, but again nach rochu furiste no the harshi narpish and doshach.
For any of them, you know, it's now not a dream, it's a reality. They can actually be a professional footballer, and again 4 or 5 years ago that wasn't possible. So it's great to know that we're the first footing on a lifelong career.
Yeah, 100%. That's my goal, and I really want to play for Scotland first team and just be the best I can be.
Just got to keep working hard and hopefully make a good first team somewhere, but really excited about the future.
Oh, definitely. I want to get as far as I can with football, hopefully like the first team, like national team sort of place. But yeah, I'm really grateful for this opportunity because it's hopefully going to help me get there.
It's amazing to be able to give these girls the platform to work from, and it often springboards them further, which is great, and they love it, which is more important.
Yeah, we're like a football family. It's one thing we do say, we're all in it together, whether they were 10 years ago, 3 years ago, or this lot here. You know, they're part of a unique family now.
Han Iona Corman seo a tachast as unis an upper chrúi agus duine a léit Amanda agus Gillian, agus halán is ag na clichadar an idan sin.
Yeah, definitely. It wouldn't happen without them, so I'm so grateful for everything they do and the amount of work they put in behind the scenes to give us the opportunities and all that to be here and give us the best experience.
Yeah, really grateful. They obviously do so much for us, just helping out with the wee things as well, making sure we feel comfortable and stuff, so they're a really big part of what we do.
If it wasn't for them, it wouldn't happen, and we're, like, all the girls are really grateful for them, and yeah, really grateful.
It's just a great experience, and for all the years that we've been doing this, we always, you know, look forward to the next one, and you know, we see endless talent coming through year after year, which is fantastic, and you know, we get the enjoyment out of it because the girls enjoy it, so it's fabulous.
I think the other thing is we see it as a privilege. We're privileged to be in this position.
Definitely.
You know, we're privileged to have these girls out on this pitch. You know, it's an honour for us to be their coaches.
Beiddash an na dávíle sa Cuideachd an turas me dhéideach a bhuainnig Alba farpais Bob Docherty, by the cumail an Alba nuair an Cuideachd, so mar sin a bhélan skippe a fadach ging an uolich.
A little bit, but I think we're handling the pressure really well, and I think it's helping us actually because it's giving us something to aim for, and yeah, it's been a long time, so hopefully it'll happen this year.
So there's no pressure. We have the belief in them and they have the belief in themselves, and we're just hoping that Bob Docherty can present the trophy to us on Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody said we couldn't win it, so we're going to go on and try and do that.
We got really close last year, and I think this year could be the year, but we'll try our best.
Well, I am very pleased to say that Scotland did actually win the tournament, which is fantastic news. But how great is it to have something like the Bob Docherty tournament for these girls?
I think it's good for all the nations actually to have something where they can collectively come together like that, because it creates experiences, it creates memories. And for the girls, it's just an opportunity to really challenge themselves and maybe be a wee bit out their comfort zone. And I think they said there they were managing the pressure. I thought that was quite nice. You said she's managing the pressure quite well. So I think that is part of it. It is part of how they become a better footballer. And it's not just about football. It's about how you manage being away from home, how you manage, as Gillian said there, you know, having that camp where they're teaching them more than just about football. They're teaching them how to look after themselves, how to think well, how to care for themselves, which is really important if you want to be a professional footballer, and the ambitions there are for the players now. They can be professional footballers, and I think that's an amazing place for us to be with them now.
Well, even the players there that we heard from, they've all got huge ambitions. I mean, I think every single one of them said they wanted to play for the first team, which is brilliant to hear.
Yeah, and I think that's, I mean, just that ambition to say actually, for those players, they see that as being an actual reality. I think even Gillian touched on that. I've met Gillian and I know how passionate she is about really developing the girls and giving them opportunities to be the best they possibly can be. But when we create that competition like that, it raises the bar of what we can produce, and then it will naturally create a better system from which we then get our first team players with the national team as well. So I think it's healthy to have competition and desire and ambition, and I think it's great to see in the girls.
Well, even for Amanda and Gillian, how important is it to have women like them involved in the game? They dedicate so much time and do so much for tournaments like this, and to develop these girls and to push them on. And I mean, we've spoken about volunteers before. It is a crucial part of the game. Yeah,
volunteers is a crucial part of sport, actually. I think that's the reality of it. But to have people who you can look up to and actually can manage and say, well, I could then go on and do what they do. And it is about creating that future. We've always got to future-proof the sport. And having people like Gillian and that there who are saying, well, why don't you come and you can one day replace me? Because I think we all have that ambition. So that's part of, I just had that conversation with players the other day there, is I'm really looking for the next person that will replace me. And you've got to kind of do yourself out of a job. But I think that's important. I think that's important for the sport. And because not everybody makes that first team, so you have to find your niche within the sport. So we want to keep people in love with it and getting it at the school age. I mean, it would have been amazing if I could have played football at school, but that just wasn't there for us. So to have that competition and the level of competition, I mean, when we're talking about scaling the players down, going from all of those players down into only 18, I mean, and that teaches really good life skills. I mean, they did touch on that as well, and I think sport does that tremendously, is teach you life skills.
Which you can see, it's clearly evident. Just tell us very briefly though, I know you also love a tournament. You drove your players to Germany last year on the St Mirren bus. How great an experience was that?
Yeah, I think that's something we've wanted to introduce, and then after the pandemic come back, we want to have where our pre-season can be around having that type of professionalism. We managed to get an invite to a camp a tournament out in Germany. The flights weren't too good last year, so I made the decision. I asked the club, and we drove 1,000 miles and 1,000 miles back. But that journey alone probably changed our players and our team as well, because there's a camaraderie there that you can't get when you're just seeing and you've got all your busy lives here home in Scotland, and to have us together, and we had a great time out there. We're back out there this year again. I've said I'm only going if I can. Actually, the players have said they're only going if we can fly, so we're scheduled out there. And the club are supporting us, and that's SMISIS, which obviously is the major shareholder of the club. They've helped us with funding for our flights. So, and without that support, but it's the experience. You want to give players life-changing experiences.
You do. Well, enjoy the flight this time, Kate. Enjoy not having to drive.
I definitely will.
Well, an talman nish nara chionn chuin skippen náisiúnta. An teachcinn sa chaidh thug Alba díochain gheibh pein and I skip a latch in Australia with the chluch iad Costa Rica geamaichean. Nach torsin sílarás mar a chaidh gheibh.
Diolch to gael off efo da. Diolch yn y bocs. Diolch O, mas ag yn y tŵl. Gorym y siar. Ag lwys y siar. Ag gael off ag y safol ag ma. Ag Mackenzie Arnold. Ag y Riist. Emma Watson. Diolch yn y bocs y Riist. Gorym ila. O! Stoch y gorym y siar. Jack in the box, Alba for Dorst in 3. Corimille. Oh, Shaka to the east. Bialev. Oh, Tall. Nicola Docherty as a huge vintage. Maar ziet het als je kan klieken tot zeggen de post, dus ik heb winnet voor jullie. Why is het Leon? Who's in Valab? Oh, Jahamalik. Lee Gibson. En die maakt die maar even geef. Oh, wat daar zijn. Wow. Weer en is de schiele gerust. Pàislig goed trekken en boksen. Oh! Hier gaat Skjaar. Arden en vastloop. Oh! Schallig gedaan. Vanmiddag ga je zitten komen a-mach. Australia haast de Bruidhinnidh. Bwynnig fwyl I mewn y parc. Ysien tôn ysien a Caroline Weir y dwyfa hawl. Sio Caroline Weir y tîn y gaster y chasglu y dwyfa siar a heich gysach yn y focsa. Oh! Oh! Dyddoch erin dhwl, erin iach glu.
Stiùidio Watson, heithiach cwsroat, hosiach ar oes a pel lawn! Pel to galope, agus go hawn nach ym a Watson. Aper tosiach I ysio, agus a driach geithge. De skipper naasjent in a halape, da game yn pel. Hosiach tosiach I le brak, gan y diac de og, alape hyn Costa Rica a Iona. Weer maha. Eerst Doin gaan boksen. Doorstjach! Van Claire Emsley! Garoku Shachet de Solera eten het pushtiges aan de drip in de Sune. Alate ga in Hashach. En dan Costa Rica. Eerst weer. Dus gewoon goed. Schissen de steek in de Shenny Gargamach. Emsley de Nui. Sanke Emsley heet hier. Hansen is hem aan. Jaganeshko weer de Sùil, weer haast, oh, schenk zorgje maar, voor Caroline weer. Weer neste schakker de boxers, jaar. Oh, voor de vast. Gaan die gommers bij Fallen Haas, Davidson. Dat is neste Watson, agus ha boiken kaljoren zo raar, dat gemacht Iona. Gewoon nog alle van de satje pullig in Hashach. Kormich geshow. Bal, Doin Shach in de box. Tricht je met een henneke vast te goed. Niet echt vallen hebben gesmoord naar Emsley goed. Shach het de watje tarsing. Actually Sophie Howard zullen meer van. Hier, Shach, Neshika Watson. Watson het al jagen jaar. Tel zorgje voor Emma Watson. Ik zei al van juist, dat begint het ook. Ik Rangers. 3 dahal aan de 3. Dahal aan de daaien. Ga dat ik aan. De glitchingen. Tosh die gemasse jiri. Aan de ene halappen. Ik zei de bjaren als gelukkig keer. Is jou ik paard gehamden. Het is tien. De Asterlemel ook zeggen. Tien voor de watje tarsing. We graag gappen daar van de hand van Christian Granados.
Kate, 2 good games against Australia and Costa Rica. Scotland scored 5, didn't concede a goal. How do you think they'll be feeling about those 2 results?
Yeah, I mean, friendlies are always good ways of being able to see and kind of a gauge where you are. I think Scotland would have been massive disappointment not qualifying, because they are capable of being there, and probably we'd really like to have been one of the teams there. But with Australia, I think that game really demonstrated how productive they were with their possession. Australia was obviously ranked 10th in the world, and it had been a real physical, real challenging game. But and I know that Australia had more of the possession. I think but Scotland really used their possession well, and then finished, and then an absolutely stunning goal from Iona Docherty, and obviously on her right foot as well, which I think caught people out of by surprise. But she's capable of scoring those type of goals. She's done it in the past, so yeah, I think they'll be more happier with the productivity within the game and what they did with their possession.
The thing is, on this programme before, we've spoken about Scotland and players coming through, younger players coming through into the A squad, or maybe the lack of younger players coming through. But actually, over the 2 games, Emma Watson, she got her first cap against Australia, scored a brace against Costa Rica. How pleasing is it to see somebody like her come into the team and make such an impact?
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think we're kind of a witnessing again, and we've already saw that before. When like the Rachel Corshes, the Kim Littles, the Jen Beattys all came through, and then they become the older players, obviously not there in these games, and then we see these younger players coming through. And I think games like these friendlies give opportunities for these players to shine, and I think Emma Watson really took her opportunity tremendously well, but she was so excited in the games as well. You could see how much it meant to her to be able to play and then scoring the 2 goals, which were 2 excellent goals as well. So, and it brings that bright future. But then tying it back to the schools programme that we watched in the earlier part of the programme, that's where they come from. So it's really important that the national team are doing really well, because that brings the grassroots players back into the sport and creates that cycle for us. So yeah, she'll have been, I think she'll still be walking on air today.
Yes, she will, I can imagine. And that's the thing, we see the Scotland squad, there are some incredible players in there, even with the likes of Rachel Corsey, who is the captain, who's injured at the moment, who wasn't playing. Caroline Weir was captain against Costa Rica, Claire Emsley against Australia. Again, showing that they're some of the best players in the world that we've got in the Scotland side.
Yeah, and that comes from the opportunities that were created for them to become the professional footballers. I mean, Caroline Weir, we have a Scotland player who plays for Real Madrid. The coverage that she should have for that, because that is an amazing achievement. But the role model she was, I mean, I think even Emma spoke about that after the game, of like what a role model Caroline Weir is for her. So there is that part of that leadership that we're really seeing now, the changing of the leadership, the growing of leadership that these players are actually delivering in the game. And it's shown in, because even last night in that weather, the enthusiasm in a really exciting game, and it's great for kids to go along and see that and be part of that.
And that's the thing, 'cause you could see just how happy and excited all the kids were at the end. We saw on TV, I know you were at the match, but actually them running down and getting pictures with their heroes at the end of the game was so lovely to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the women's game's always been quite unique in that. They've always understood that for them to really grow and to have following, then the fan base needs to be able to see and almost effectively touch you, and have that real contact. And I think that that's fantastic to see, because it really engages everybody.
Which we totally saw last night, which was lovely. But Kate, I am so devastated to say we're at the end of the programme, because it's been so lovely hearing your chat this week. But thank you so much for coming on and joining us, and it was great to hear everything that's going on at St Mirren too.
Thanks very much.
Well, sin air son in nach in a cheachdain bí cluiceadar rugby na Alba Rachel Law callroom sin stiùidio. Cynúir sin Jen Cínseach go bhfuil sibh lentin BBC Alba ecils gon cailsibh programme san bí ag trí seascad. Hí sin sibh an áhuiras.